Can you believe it's been 25 years since the first trade? Do you remember that first day of trading?
It's crazy because I totally remember that first day. We were at our other location, it was Windermere House, right next to Harbor Bay. I think there's another company there now. We were all excited. We actually had the broker dealers come into the building.
Right.
And they had their own workstations. And everybody had been trained, and we're sitting there, and we go live. Everyone's excited. And the first trade of the day was, I don't remember the exact stock, but the first trade of the day, the trader entered in the account number in the price section.
So that made it a multi-billion-dollar trade.
Absolutely. It was fantastic. So the first trade got canceled. So
we need more multi-billion-dollar trades.
I hear you. I hear you. But it was a very interesting day. After we got over that hurdle, I think there were a few trades that day, and the rest is history. They didn't make that mistake anymore. It was good. You remember your first day?
In fact, what I remember is my first day wasn't my first day. So you guys owe me some back pay because you had me come in. I started on a Monday.
I do not recall.
I'll send you a bill.
Okay.
But I came in the Thursday before I was to start for a meeting with brokers on trading parameters.
Okay.
And I just found the memo that I wrote about that meeting, looking for something else. But my first day, we met with a company, a U.S. investor who ended up spending 15 years in the federal penitentiary for
some fraud.
Mm-hmm. Now, what I took from that is the line between doing the right thing and not, because I don't think anyone ever goes off to engage in financial fraud as a first step. Well, some people probably do. But some end up there, and once you cross that line, there's almost no crossing back, right? So that's one of the first things I learned. When you look back in those first few years, was there a moment when you thought, oh my gosh, we finally made it?
Never. I have a view that comfort breeds complacent. I'm not ever comfortable because the work never stops. It's like learning. You're a lifelong learner. Well, you're a lifelong worker in terms of improving the market, providing access to the market, and education never, ever, 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 ever to infinity stops. Because every time a new generation comes along, the learning from the previous generation has to pass on. But as you know, the market never stops. There's always something new. So I've never felt, oh, we've made it. I have said that, and I have felt that we've achieved certain goals. All the things when I started at BISX, it's 25 years. I started 26 years ago. When I started, we set up a 20-year plan, and we've achieved all of the things that we had planned to achieve in that period of time. And so now we're moving on to the next iteration.
What's one lesson BISX taught you that you really didn't expect?
I learned patience. I think as parents, people say they learn patience, but from the business side, in dealing with, I don't know how many government administrations I've dealt with, how many ministers of finance, ministers of state, public companies going through changes, different boards of directors, the Securities Commission.
And the central bank.
You got it.
The commission and
going through the changes so we're consistent and all these things are changing around us. Getting things done and moving things forward is difficult. And so, I had to learn to manage myself, my time, and people. And patience was something that if you didn't exercise it or understand it, you end up running into a wall and nothing gets done. So I learned how to manage myself better.
When we're talking about setting up a stock exchange for the Bahamas, what was your biggest hope that you were hoping to realize from that creation?
Well, aside from don't mess it up, the goal and the hope was to create something that had never been done in the country before, to give people a different avenue for saving. Because, back then, things happened by the way. One company provided a market, another company provided a market, and they were inconsistent. And so the minister at the time, William Allen, had as a vision that it was time for the Bahamas to have its own stock market. We had just passed some regulations and some laws, And so now it was time to have the instrument of the market, which is the stock exchange, come into existence. So really it was just to have a place that people could rely on to trade their securities in a safe way.
When you look back, what do you think makes someone a great partner, whether as a BISX team member or someone to collaborate with?
The one thing that I taught you and all of us here at BISX, it talks about getting it done. There's a certain mindset that I look for in business and in people. And it's persons that understand the urgency of now, understand that tomorrow is not promised, today is what matters, and you get it done. And so for me, that type of individual that understands that my attitude matters, my performance matters. I thrive with lean forward people.
When you look back on those early days, what do you consider one of the boldest decisions that you had to make?
I'll tell you, probably the boldest and the most difficult situation that I had to deal with. And it's one of the hardest things that a CEO or the head of an organization has to do. I had to make the final and difficult decision to let people go. We went through a period of austerity where the company was financially challenged, and as you know, the company has to live so that it can rehire people.
I was there for, even in my rehiring, like those first few years was pretty lean.
Yeah. And so we had to live.
Yeah.
And so I had to let people go. I mean, I worked to find jobs for everyone, but I had to make that decision and I had to execute it. And so for me, that was a very difficult, sobering life situation that I had to go through in order for the company to live and then come back and now thrive. I want to say thank you to all of our stakeholders who've been with us on this wonderful journey. And happy 25th anniversary to BISX.